Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael Neese, president of Our Future is Kind, and your companion in conversations about kindness, leadership, connection, and courage. Each week, I sit down with thoughtful leaders, creators, and bridge builders to explore what a healthier, more humane future could look like, and the choices it takes to build it. These are honest conversations about purpose, culture, curiosity, and what it really means to show up for one another at work, in our communities, and in everyday life. Along the way, we'll unearth practical ideas, small but meaningful acts, and questions worth sitting with, because building what's next is a choice. So let's dive in. Today we have with us the founders of the K20 Summit, which is coming up in May. Let me introduce them to you now. Communications and PR expert, kindness advocate, speaker, educator, editor, Francesca Donlan. And
hello.
The director of Roots of Compassion and Kindness Center, aka the Rock Center, Maria Roca.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. And the founder of Kindness from the Heart, Jenny Haase.
Hi, everyone.
Glad to have you here. And the director of SERVICEBRAND GLOBAL, Alan Williams.
Hi, Michael.
We have this amazing summit that is coming up. Before we dig into that piece and a little bit more about some of the things that are going to be happening that really cool weekend, or possibly very hot weekend in Fort Myers, Florida, could be quite the scorcher there. I just wanted to go around very quickly and say I gave a brief introduction of each of you, but I want to ask you each in turn, what makes you, you? So, Alan, let's start with you.
See how much Francesca enjoyed you picking on me to go first there, right? So I'm finding it increasingly a challenge to answer the question, what do you do? You know, when you meet people, they say, what do you do? And so the way I answer that now is that I'm taking my grandmother's advice that she gave me when I was about 7 or 8 years old, when she used to say, Alan, you need to follow your nose. And what that means is to follow your values, even if you don't know where it's going to take you. Thank you.
Love it. All right. Jenny.
What makes me me? Was that the question?
That's it.
I have had such just a wonderful example through my parents of what it means to be kind and the ripple effect of that and what it means to create a legacy of kindness. And they have both passed now, but I want to help share thoughts about creating a legacy of kindness of our own and what kind of impact do we want to have on our friends, family, the world, and how do we want to be remembered. And so that's a lot of what's making me me right now.
Lovely. Maria.
This is an interesting question. I have to kind of jump on Jenny's because my parents were absolutely the planters of the seeds of kindness in me, especially my father. But then I always look at the work I'm doing now as sort of bringing together everything I've ever cared about. I did 13 years of Catholic schools, which taught about compassion and kindness all the time. I am a Green Faith Fellow with Green Faith International, where we worked on kindness and compassion for the earth. My background in communication, it sort of all comes together in what is now probably the last chapter of my career, which is working on promoting compassion, kindness, and empathy.
Lovely. Wonderful. All right, Francesca, round us out.
What makes me me? I would say a bulk of my career was in journalism, where I felt like I needed to write the truth or to find justice in the world. And I think what makes me here in this moment is that I have surrounded myself with these amazing people who are speaking a different kind of truth, but a truth about kindness that is so needed in the world right now. And we're coming together to do something pretty spectacular, and can feel intimidating and like a huge lift, but it's made possible because we are passionate people who believe we can do hard things.
I absolutely love that. And for those of you who are tuning into this great conversation, the K20 Summit, it's a global gathering, but I'm not going to be the one to tell you about it. I would love for one of you to just jump in and tell me, what is it, where is it, and why are we doing this?
The reason we're doing this is because Francesca and I had a crazy idea. Francesca had the courage to ask the question of Maria, And Maria had the vision to say, yes, I'm all in. So that's how it happened. We didn't know what it was going to be when we started the journey. And probably there are still some things that will unfold between now and in 4 weeks' time.
Francesca, do you want to jump in as well and just talk a little bit about this?
So we had this crazy idea and I took it to Maria, and without even batting her eyes, she said, yes, let's host it at Florida Gulf Coast University. That was just over a year ago on January 2025. Here we are, April 2026. We're about to host global leaders, global kindness leaders, literally from around the world are descending upon FGCU in Fort Myers, Florida, to have this inaugural, unprecedented meeting of the kindness minds. It's public programming. We'll have all sorts of topics, and it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be just, I hope everyone listening can come. It's going to be really magnificent.
And why is this so important right now? I mean, Maria, when you heard that phone call and were asked about it, without hesitation, you jumped in. Why?
Well, the core of the Rock Center's work is to promote compassion, kindness, and empathy because we see the need in the world. This doesn't take much. 5 minutes watching the news. You don't even have to watch a whole half hour to know what a deep need there is right now for promoting compassion, kindness, and empathy. And I just every day feel it more and more and more. I think the other thing that I see right now, especially, thinking about this from a time perspective, coming out of COVID, we're still struggling to reconnect with other humans. We spend so much time isolated and behind screens. And I think part of what we can do through kindness is help people reconnect in 3 dimensions, I guess I should say, right, in IRL, in real life, right? But, that we just have such a human need to feel connected, to feel cared for, and to feel like people are being kind.
It does feel like it's a dramatic need, especially when you do hear the news stories and see conflict across the world. But Jenny, I'm curious. It sounds like kindness is very personal to you. It's not just part of community and part of the larger world. What does kindness mean to you?
I think it is one of the most powerful values that we can embody that has can make the greatest difference. And oftentimes with just little effort. For me, kindness is a value that's like one of those bonus values. So it's like this big umbrella, and under it, you've got compassion, empathy, philanthropy, gratitude, respect. And so it's like a bonus value because you get like 15 of them all wrapped up into one. And you get the impact of that. And the thing that is so beautiful about kindness is it can be a very small little effort that you make, and it just ripples out and can impact countless lives, countless generations. And we have no idea the impact that we can have just through a little effort. And it's also so important to me because it embodies so much. So, I think of 3 types of kindness. So kindness to self, kindness to others, and kindness to the planet and all living things. So is there anything in there that we can even think of in our worlds that if we're not amplifying kindness in those areas, that life is not going to be vastly improved? I can't think of anything.
Well, that makes sense to me. Alan, I'm curious about that. The 3 different types of kindness: kindness to self, kindness to others, kindness to the planet. Is that what people going to the K20 Summit are going to experience? Are they going to learn more about these things and have a chance to have conversations about?
Yeah, they sure are, because we think that people generally focus on kindness to others. And what is often forgotten is that we live on this beautiful planet.
So the K20 Summit, how can people find out a little bit more about it and attend if they wanted to be there?
I can start. We've got a website, K20Kindness.com, and also that will take you to the Rock Center at Florida Gulf Coast University, where you can buy a ticket. And you can also look on us in social media under, Rock Center, FGCU, and also K20 Kindness Summit.
Wonderful. And about how many people are you expecting at this point?
Well, our maximum's about 180. So if we can get there, that would be amazing. And that's our hope. That's our goal.
Sounds fantastic. And I've been recently invited to be the MC for the event, and I can't wait to learn more about the great conversations that are going to be going on and the great presentations that I can help facilitate. If I'm doing my job right, what are the things that you are hoping are going to happen in between the sessions? I want to know, what do you envision? Like, people are done with one session and they're out in the hallway and they're heading into the bathroom. They're going to go get some coffee. But what are you hearing? What are they talking about?
I think Maria hit on it exactly. Connection.
Right.
So we want the power of connection. We want to have people feel welcomed, and that there's a lot of learning to be done and a lot of sharing to be done with each other. But to me, a key for a really meaningful or transformational experience is not just having a really great time and you maybe learned some things and met some people and then you go on your way and it's in the past. This is the beginning of something, not only the beginning of the K20 and hopefully annual summits, but also the beginning of the ripples of this impact. And let's get to know each other and build a sense of community, and how can we collaborate with each other to amplify kindness in our individual work, or, what we're doing together. How can we leave behind, Fort Myers community in a much better place? And just what can we continue on and amplify in our connections with each other?
Alan's been using the term kindversations, that in these breaks we'll be having kindversations. But, it doesn't take much to find a connection. Michael, you and I found one right away in the fact that you're in Durham. And it's like, wait, what? And finding other organizations, other people who have synergies with us, where we might be able to elevate each other or support each other. I think that there's a lot of magic that can happen. So
we've talked so far about Fort Myers, and we've talked a little bit about Durham, North Carolina. Who else is represented? Are there any other countries perhaps in there? Or
Alan, can you?
I don't know if we can hear Alan, but we've got quite a collection of people coming from Italy, India, Peru, England, obviously. Yes, there's a nice representation globally.
And I'm just going to have to go back and revisit what you said earlier, Jenny, the idea that this is the start of something. Because too often we go to a conference, we go to a workshop or a series of presentations, and we think, well, that was nice. The notebook that I got is now going to live, on this table over here. I'll never revisit. I'll never think about it. What are the ways that you hope people continue to engage with each other and with you once the summit has happened?
I have a lot of those dusty notebooks. And, I think about this a lot as I think about, we're actually not calling it a conference. We're calling it a summit. And, I think that's an important communication element of this. I mean, I think when I come out of sessions, what is meaningful to me, if people have raised questions that I need to carry with me, and that may be very hard questions. And I'm really hoping that we're willing to throw some of those questions out there and have people carry them forward and take them home with them to their communities.
Well, I think so. For one thing that's going to differentiate this summit from others is that it's participatory. So we're not doing the sages on the stage approach. So people are going to get involved, and they're going to be able to talk to some of these incredibly world-renowned speakers and be in that space together. And so that's one thing. The other thing is we have all sorts of fun things happening about kindness challenges and kindness awards and keeping the kindness going, and working with some seniors in a retirement center. They're going to come in and we're going to do some note cards with them. And we are going to be active and participatory and engaged with each other, which is a bit different as well.
Let's hope that the ripples continue on outward for a very long time to come. So let me play devil's advocate for just a moment. There are powerful forces at play right now. If you look at the global stage and some of the political and economic shifts that are going on, how do we have any power? I mean, these are some really rich people who have very strong agendas. Maybe some of them align with some of ours. Maybe some of them don't. But what chance do we have?
I think it starts within our own communities. It starts within our own families, within our own ecosystems, within our, our employment, our neighborhoods, our churches, local government. If we are having a positive impact and letting it ripple out to all of those that are in our various circles, it's just going to continue to ripple out further and further. And it helps to set a standard, I think, for what it is that we want, what is acceptable. And I think the ripple can go far and wide. But part of that also is we've got to have the courage. to show up. And it's getting harder and harder and a little bit scary to do that.
Yeah,
courage.
Yeah, I can't help but think about that wonderful Margaret Mead quote about the only thing that's ever changed the world is one or two people, with an idea. And that's how it all starts. And, I know Francesca's had this experience a lot. I've had this experience a lot. When we talk about the fact that we're promoting kindness, compassion, every single person says, oh, we need more of that. People recognize that there's a need. And I think that, thinking about my own background in communication as a communication professor teaching persuasion, the very first thing we have to establish is a need. And I think that's already there. And then the next step is to propose a satisfaction. That's what we're doing.
And I want to add also, Michael, that the question is a really good one, right? It's like there's a lot of hate. Right? How are we ever going to stand up to all of that hate? And that is exactly what the hope is that people will give up. I did a crazy thing last year where I did one kind act every day for a year. And around me, there was a school shooting. There was, and I would stumble and I would say, what is the point? What is the point? And the point is that we each have to light a candle. You can't blow out your own candles because kindness is contagious and you can't just let your candle blow out. And you feel dismay and you feel despair and you feel like, what is the point? I'm just one little person. I have no power, no money, I'm not a billionaire, but it's the little engine that's going to push us out of this. I believe it.
I have this background working in planetariums where, people come into the big dome and they sit in those reclined seats and I point out Orion's belt and, here's the phase of the moon and here you can see Mars and Saturn and things like that. And as you were talking, Francesca, about lighting a candle, it reminds me that if you go outside at night, you can trick yourself into thinking that all of these tiny little pinpoints of light are trivial, that they don't matter, that they are really faint, and what could they possibly matter? But when you zoom out, suddenly you find out that all of these little dots of light are huge. They're stars, and they are bigger by so much compared to us little tiny humans living on the side of a space rock. So I love that analogy of lighting a candle, because as long as you have light years of empty space, the light from that candle can still go places. It can still go across the universe. Alan, what are your thoughts, having heard all of these ideas about what's going on at the summit and why kindness is needed right now and the impacts that we can have going from this summit out?
As far as the summit is concerned, I'm just thrilled that it's happening, because a little more than a year ago, it didn't exist even as an idea. And so anybody watching this, I think they should take away that if they have an idea, just follow it, go with it, do what you can to make it happen, because it is possible. And too many people either give up at that stage or they get lost in the planning. They try to plan the most perfect summit, and then it never happens. We didn't do that. We didn't have a plan. We just had an intention, and we knew the style of something that we wanted to happen. And then we met wonderful people like you, Michael, and others. So it is this thing around, when you have an idea, follow your nose, be true to your values, be authentic, allow the space for it to develop, and it will, even though you might not know what that is at the beginning. And then the other thing I have on my mind is how we live in a world where there is so much focus on how finite our resources are. And kindness flies in the face of that, because it is absolutely infinite. It's only limited by our choices. And that thrills me, to think that you can put a little bit of effort in and get so much big impact out. And I've done some work around developing a kindness equation, where the right-hand side of the equation is kindness to the power of infinity. And that's a possibility, which is an amazing thought. So there are some thoughts that I hope the microphone and Riverside have been able to pick up.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's so good to hear your voice on these very important topics. Just hearing the idea that the summit did not exist and now suddenly it does. And that was through conversations. It was through inspiration and conversations, or kindversations. And I just love the fact that, that you have all come together to make this possible. I would love to shift gears now for just a moment and jump into some questions that we ask all of our guests here on Our Future is Kind. So are you all ready to go on just a great thought experiment with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we are all getting into a time machine together. We're going forward 100 years. Add 100 to your age, add 100 to the age of anybody you know, anybody that you've heard of right now. Odds are we won't be around. Odds are that even the youngest people we know right now, if they're around, they are extremely old at that point. And so we're in the time machine, and I'm telling you, as we are making these controls function to get us to 2126, Jenny, Maria, Francesca, and Alan, we are going to step out into the best possible future because we did all the right things, all of the right things. And so the doors open and we step out. And I want to hear from each of you. What are you looking for to find out if I told you the truth, that we did all the right things and this is the best possible future? Francesca, we're going to start with you.
Okay, well, it just so happens that the house that I am living in right now is 100 years old. Okay, so if this house is still standing in 100 years, which I expect that it will be, and I step out of this house in Narragansett, Rhode Island, I think the first thing I would look, well, I'd be very tentative. I would just make sure there were people, no guns. No, there were people and neighbors around that I would talk to and see if the sense of community still exists. And I have hope that it will, because there was a community here 100 years ago. It was agriculture. There was more cows and horses around than there are now. But I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that kindness is the heartbeat of civility. So civil society. So if we can just keep the heartbeat alive, then if I stepped out of this house in 100 years, it would still remain.
It's lovely. I hope we meet those exact people. Maria, how about you? What are you looking for?
So I'm hoping that in the course of this 100 years that the people on this planet recognize that we need a complete paradigm shift, and that progress is not about new technology. Progress is about learning how to get along and to live in peace. Mm-hmm. And so when I get off of that ship, I want everybody to be living in peace. There's probably less technology, not more, and that people are recognizing that the meaning in life comes from loving each other and being in relationship.
Being in relationship. Jenny, how about you?
All of the above. And when I step out, I am going to see an incredibly blue and clear sky and clean waters and beautiful environment and a healthy world. I am going to see people that are living in community and sharing with each other and looking for ways to lift each other up. And I also agree, less technology, more humanity, and it being people-centric and people recognizing, not only respecting those that are around them, they're recognizing the future and continuing to create the kind of world that they want to leave for their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, generations going on and on and on. They're also being respectful and grateful for their ancestors who 100 years ago realized this was like, clarion call. This is a very important moment in time, and we stepped up and stepped into it and co-created the kind of world that we want to live in now and that we want to have for the future.
Co-creating, and it speaks to the individual ownership to get us there. Yeah. And Alan, what about you? What are you looking for when we step out of the time machine in 2126?
I'm looking for a really good microphone. No, that's maybe you didn't hear that. So what I'm going to discover is a real surprise, and a good one, in that everybody has a sense of basic dignity as a member of the human race. And the reason that that's been achieved is because there's been a realization that existence is all about we instead of about me. And money no longer plays the lead role in society. Instead, it's relationships. So that's kind of the serious beginning. And then a more playful follow-up, I guess, is that a little bit to Maria's point, we've used technology to get all of the boring stuff that we have to get done, which frees us up to be able to play, be in nature, play with art and music, and just enjoy life.
It's lovely. Now, here comes the surprise secondary question to all of this. And Francesca, we'll start again with you. So we stepped out of this time machine and I said we did all the right things to get us to that future. Francesca, what are all the right things?
Well, I liked Alan's word dignity. I liked that everyone can be whoever they are, whatever color they are, whatever sex, gender they are, whatever religious belief they assume, that you value and see and respect and offer dignity to people just as they are.
Great start. That sounds wonderful. Maria, how about you? What are the right things?
So I think the first thing we need to do is decide that we need a moral code for anyone we elect to office, and that they're held to a very high standard, and that becomes what guides them, not how much money they've got for their campaigns. And that we really start electing people who actually have visions like what we were talking about here.
We should definitely talk more off air because you and I have some similar thoughts on this, and I would love to learn more from you. Jenny, how about you?
One thing is that we get back to honoring truth and speaking truth, and that we really look at each other as an extension of ourselves, not just completely separate, that we really develop an abundance mentality, because we're so much into the scarcity mentality in so many ways. And that just creates a box around us, and an abundance mentality just opens up opportunities in extraordinary ways and a much brighter future.
Mentality. That's beautiful. And Alan, what about you? What do you think those right things are, the kind and courageous acts to get us there?
Listening to you all reminds me of the African concept of Ubuntu, which is I am because you are. And I include the planet in that, because if we respected each other and respected the planet and realized that we all depend on each other, then that's what we got to do to get to this beautiful place that we've all described.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always think of Ubuntu in maybe kindergarten terms because that's how I interpret it. Your joy is my joy. Your pain is my pain. And when I remind myself of that idea, it's so much easier to say, oh my gosh, if somebody else has a big success, shouldn't I be celebrating it? And if somebody else is having a tragedy, shouldn't I be there to comfort them? So I would love to just find out from all of you, what are the ways that you stay kind in the world? Because there are moments, we all know those moments where it's hard. You wake up, you hear the news, something bad happens, you spill coffee all over yourself, whatever the day includes. Maybe your computer goes down and your daughter has to loan you hers so that you can get into the podcast. But on those days when things are a little hard, what do you do to regain that kindness and to maybe get inspired? Anybody?
I'm happy to jump in. That's pretty fresh for me. And not just the daughter and the computer thing. In a lot of ways, it's getting more and more difficult because we've already talked about it's a very difficult time. And, you don't need 30 minutes of news. All you need is something coming through on your phone that reminds you of the difficult time that we're in. And there's so much that it really is easy to start giving up hope. And it's so important not to. And if we start to, for me, sometimes I need to remind myself I need to change my lens, that I'm looking through things. And there is just a really, really beautiful, my favorite TED Talk is by a gentleman named DeWitt Jones. And I know some on the call have witnessed that. But he was a National Geographic photographer. And he shares about when he would go out and shoot images, and sometimes you would think, oh, the lighting's not right, or it's not what I had in mind. But he would change either a lens or shift his perspective or get down and look at something from a different angle and suddenly have just extraordinary, beautiful images. And his TED Talk is about celebrating what's right with the world. And so when I get in those darker spaces, when I feel like just throwing my hands up and just giving up, or I can't listen to one more thing, or I have to go hide somewhere because it's just weighing down on me, it really helps to shift a lens, look for the good, because there is good out there in almost, in so many situations where we don't see it. And then the other piece of that is there's so much negative that we hear, but there's a lot of kindness stories going around. So let's look for the kindness. Let's share kindness stories with each other. Let's amplify that and try to get some of the other stuff put to the side and really focus on the impact that a little bit of kindness can ripple out to.
Wonderful. Wonderful. How do the rest of you stay inspired and pick yourselves up on a day when it doesn't feel like there's a lot of kindness?
I have the incredible blessing of being a college professor, and all I have to do is walk into one of my classes. And I just get to see my students and listen to things that they've done that are kind, and to get a hug from them. And it reminds me, oh, right, this is why I'm here. And, to be able to be a listener. I think that's probably the biggest one, is realizing that sometimes the kindest thing we can do is be a compassionate listener. And sometimes that's what young people need more than anything else.
Francesca, how about you?
I would say for me, my kindest place is nature. So if I'm feeling kind of disappointed or discouraged, that will really cheer me up. And also I have to manage my media diet because, like Jenny was saying, it's pretty bleak, but there is a lot of really good stuff out there too. If you manage certain websites and newsletters, you can get a lot of good news. And then lastly, I think it comes down to how we treat ourselves. I have a friend who always does this for me. If I say something like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. I forgot about that appointment." She'll say, "Don't talk to my friend like that." You have to remind yourself that you have to be kind to the way you speak to yourself too. And that's a big help, because if you're down on yourself, that's just a bad start to the day. You gotta try to be kind to yourself too.
I love that. Bruce Lee used to say that you have to be careful what you tell yourself because you'll believe it.
Yes.
And, words are very important and very hefty. And that's why they call it spelling, because you cast spells with every word. I'm like, man, Bruce Lee, he was deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Alan, how about you?
For me, it's the power of losing yourself in your immediate surroundings and in the moment. And just two examples come to mind. Last week, I went to the supermarket to get my food shopping, and I let a couple of people in front of me because they didn't have too much in their trolley. And we made eye contact that you could tell that they were grateful. And in that moment, politics wasn't there. World conflict wasn't there. It was just a moment. And then another one, traveling on the tube about a week ago, I just made eye contact with a toddler that was in a buggy. And we played a game of waving hands at each other. And maybe nobody even knew about that, but it felt so good. And the toddler was smiling. And again, just being in that moment, you don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So many ways to lift yourselves up. So all of our audience, we're going to put these in the show notes. So don't worry about it if you didn't catch them all and furiously write down things as they said it. We will keep you informed. Before we adjourn here, I just wanted to mention, Jenny, you and I, we're writing a book together along with some other co-authors. The name of the book is Our Future is Kind, The Ultimate Guide to Making a Difference. I just very briefly, you don't have to give away all of the, secrets, but what are you hoping that book will do?
The fact that there are, I think, 24 authors?
25
authors
of us. Yeah.
And so people getting a chance to look at all kinds of different perspectives about kindness, because you could think it's just something super simple, kindness. Everybody knows what it is. But the impact that it has from so many different angles, whether it's in business or or, your community, your family, whether it's to self, others, and the planet. It's just so amazing. So to get so many different perspectives, ideas of what we can do to make a difference, maybe something's going to resonate, a chapter's going to resonate much more with me reading it than somebody else reading that same chapter. But I love that opportunity to help planting seeds. You're planting seeds wherever you go, right? So plant some really good kindness seeds. And I think that book will help to amplify kindness, be able to help grow it in different ways. And so I'm excited to share my little chapter and my perspective. And a lot of it has to do with thinking about creating a legacy of kindness. And I have to say that we're all creating a legacy of some sort in the way that we lead our lives. So why not have it be intentional and see what kind of really beautiful ripple effect that we can have because of just the last thing, the impact of kindness. It's so amazing that, you think, oh, wow, somebody was kind to me, so that made me feel good. Okay, but it's not just making me feel good. The person who did the kindness is going to feel good. And the crazy thing is that somebody just not even involved, but just witnessing it is going to feel good too. So that's pretty powerful, don't you think? That is a superpower for sure.
Absolutely. I can't wait to read your shining words and your legacy that you're putting into this. So I appreciate your pouring that in. And to our other panelists today, I say we don't have a complete set of co-authors yet. So let me know if you're interested in doing it. And anybody listening in, if you want to leave behind your words in this very special book and help those ripples of kindness go out into the world and give people real nitty-gritty actual strategies that they can use right after they read whatever chapter they're in, please reach out to us and let us know. Before we adjourn, I just wanted to hear from each of you, what are the last pieces of wisdom that you want everybody to come away with? And at the very tail end, I'll ask again for those details about the K20 Summit. So let's mix it up here a little bit. Maria, what are your last words of wisdom for everybody?
I guess it would be just a little bit of a challenge to say, let yourself be changed by kindness. Open up your heart and allow it to transform you.
I adore that. It's lovely. Francesca, how about you?
I would say that you matter. You matter and your candle matters. So light your candle, hold your candle, and don't let anyone blow it out, including yourself.
Love it. Love it. Jenny, how about you?
I'd say kind of start where you are. And realize that you don't have to be perfect. None of us are. And sometimes you might do something that's not exactly kind. And then just think about it and go, okay, I want to reframe that and do something different next time. But start where you are. Just do a simple kindness a day. And then one of the things that I think is kind of fun to do is do an act of kindness. You may not have any idea what happens, but just imagine what might have happened. Okay, so I participated in a sub for Santa, and I got a pretty beautiful little dress for a little 4-year-old girl that had a family in need. I don't know what happened after that, but maybe that was the first dress of her own she ever had, or fancy dress-up dress, or maybe it made her start feeling something differently about herself, and then she decided to, she got more confidence or whatever. But have a fun time, even imagining the ripple effect in those differences. And then you're going to just want to do more of it.
Love that. And Alan?
I find to have a prompt is really helpful. And so for me, it started with a £1 coin that was given at an event. And the speaker said, just be kind with this £1. And I decided to just keep it in my pocket so that every time I put my hand in my pocket and touched that coin, I'd be reminded of the power of being kind. And more often than not, I then responded and was kind in that moment when otherwise perhaps I wouldn't have done. So, you can buy kindness hearts, or you might have a piece of jewelry that one of your parents gave to you. So carry something with you that when you touch it, you're reminded to be kind, because you will respond.
We all need those reminders, don't we? So Francesca, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you, can you tell us the way that people can find out more about the summit and can register and attend?
Yes, it's being hosted by the Roots of Compassion and Kindness Center at Florida Gulf Coast University in Fort Myers, and you can find that by going to the Rock Center at FGCU, and also K20kindness.com. and also Rock Center online and social media, and K20 Kindness on social media.
Lovely. Well, I'm going to encourage everybody listening and watching today, find out more about this summit. If you want to be part of something that really sparks a difference in our world at a time when we desperately need it, now is the time. Go look at those websites. Go find out more about this summit. You want to be there. You won't want to miss it. There are going to be some amazing speakers, some amazing sessions, and there are going to be those great hallway conversations with, I guess they're kindversations. And you just don't want to miss this, because the world is ready for this change and you can be part of it. So to my panel, thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate you being on Our Future is Kind.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
This episode's Kindness Challenge. Carry a small physical object, like a coin, a stone, a piece of jewelry, in your pocket. And each time you touch it, pause and perform one deliberate act of kindness. Want to stay inspired so you can stay kind? Attend the K20 Summit. Learn from kindness experts and teach others what you know about kindness, so we can all combine our efforts to build a kinder future. We will see you there. www.k20kindness.com. You've been listening to Our Future is Kind podcast, where building what's next is a choice. Make your next choice a good one and help build the future we want to live in.